Welcome to Hotline TV. I'm Quinn McCord.
And I'm Jamie Shufflebarger.
Well, today we're taking a look at everyone's favorite thing, Senate FEC reports. Woo, that's exciting. Looking at which candidates boomed and which ones busted last quarter.
Quinn, which ones did?
Well, you know, I look at all these combined reports, and what stands out to me, and this has been noted before in the Hotline last week, and everyone else picked up on it after we ran with it, how well the Republican candidates for the open seats are doing. Marco Rubio, like, what is he? $4.5 million. Pat Toomey, $3 million. Portman, almost as much. Rob Portman. Even Sharon Angle got like $2.6 million. That's not open seat, obviously. But Mark Kirk, Roy Blunt, all of these open seat people are basically outraising their opponents and doing very well. So I know we've all been talking about how if Republicans are going to gain a lot of seats in the Senate, they can't lose any open seats. And at least on the money side, you know, that seems to be the case.
Some of them are spending more money than others, though, right? I know Rubio spent almost as much as he took in last quarter.
That may be true, but you know, if you're Rubio, you're assuming it's not money wasted. You know, he needs to get the poll numbers up. I mean, obviously, you know, Chris is still ahead, and I have to say that I'm kind of surprised. I mean, I really thought Chris would start to slip, and I guess it really depending on what happens on the Democrat side. We're going to talk about Florida later. Let's stick to the numbers for now. I mean, you know, and a couple of bad reports. I mean, Alexi Giannoulias only has $1 million, $200,000 in debt.
Yeah.
Lee Fisher obviously is far below in cash on hand for Rob Portman. So, you know, that's obviously sort of the bad news for Democrats. You know, the good news for Democrats. I mean, Barbara Boxer had one of the biggest quarters this quarter.
Obama stopped by and fundraised for her a couple times, didn't he?
I know, and she's probably someone that doesn't need it as much as some of the other people.
Yeah.
But you know, he plays well in California, which is I'm sure why he went. And you know, obviously, Harry Reid, he could stop fundraising today and he'd be fine, at least in terms of money, because he's going to have everything he needs. But you know, some of these other people, I mean, you know, Patty Murray has a good war chest. She's going to need it against Dina Rossi.
How much does she have in her?
$6.8 million. And you know, Democrats occasionally will talk about Richard Burr. They've kind of talked about him, stopped talking about him. Now they're talking about David Vitter again. There are some top targets for Democrats to go after, but these people are sort of well funded. So the Republicans, you know, on average, you say Republicans are probably doing a little better in FEC reports than Democrats. Anyway, so is there anything more that, you know, these guys you want to talk about?
I just want to say in terms of some of the open seats like Portman and Kirk and Giannoulias and Fisher, those are going to be really negative races, and the Dems better stock up on money if they want to have a chance. I mean, the Giannoulias-Kirk race especially is just going to need tons of money thrown at negative ads. And Giannoulias just doesn't have the funds to keep up with Kirk at the moment. So we'll see what happens with that. No
question about that. As you know, and the DSCC basically dragged some of their people in 2008. Jeff Merkley, Kay Hagan. I mean, the DSCC elected some Democrats in 2008. We'll see if they can sort of, you know, hit all these races at the same time. You know, I could also point out Republicans have not done well in Colorado. I mean, Jay Norton and Ken Buck don't have much money sitting on hand. Neither does Andrew Romanoff.
And they're going to spend it coming up to the August 10th primary. So there's going to be Norton or Buck, whoever wins, is going to not have very much money sitting on to face Bennett or Romanoff. So that'll be interesting. No question
that either. And of course, you know, John Bozeman in Arkansas, I think, does not know how to fundraise because he has no money. But, you know, if you look at the polls, he may not need it.
No, and the NRSC will probably put a little bit of money in there to pick up that seat in case it needs.
I would love to see what happens if not one Republican ad is run in Arkansas, and just see if Bozeman can still win. You know, I mean that may be the size of the wave.
75% chance of that. So we'll see what happens.
Anyways, we promised you we'd talk about Florida, and here it is. This is our ad of the week from Jeff Green.
Career politician Kendrick Meek's record. Since Meek's been in Congress, 650,000 more Floridians are unemployed. Meek took thousands from special interests like Wall Street, tobacco, big oil, even BP. And now Meek's been tied to a criminal fraud case. Isn't there a better choice? Jeff Green, a successful businessman and proven jobs creator who has a real statewide jobs plan to get Florida moving again. And Jeff Green is a true outsider who won't take one penny of special interest money.
I'm Jeff Green, and I approve this message.
This is a good example how some self-funders are just blowing away their competition. I mean, especially in Florida, Jeff Green has had ads up every week, 2 or 3 new ones, just hammering Kendrick Meek on stuff like D.C. insider and is career politician. Also, Rick Scott in the governor's race in Florida is just throwing something like $25 million in the last 6 weeks on the race. And you can see Meg Whitman in California, Linda McMahon in Connecticut. There's just the self-funders are so rich and so successful this year that people like Kendrick Meek are just going to get blown away.
Well, we'll see. Actually, the question I want to ask you, though, is it showing up in the polls yet? What's the Jeff Green, Kendrick Meek matchup looking like?
Actually, it is looking like it is showing up in the polls. People seem to know who Jeff Green is more than Kendrick Meek, and that's kind of a shocker considering Kendrick Meek has only been in office and Jeff Green just moved to Florida about 3 years ago. And so Kendrick Meek's got his own set of problems. Charlie Crist is looking more and more like he's going to caucus with the Democrats. There was the Wall Street Journal story this morning saying that he has talked a couple times with Harry Reid, moving to the left on health care, on unemployment benefits. So Kendrick Meek is really between a rock and a hard place.
Well, yeah, although in fairness to Meek, he does have $4 million. I mean, this is kind of what, I'm not saying it's the same thing, it's kind of what you were saying about Joe Sestak.
True.
You know, like, oh, this guy's dead meat, and then he throws in a few $1 million at the very end, very smartly placed ads, and wins. Now, obviously, Arlen Specter was a very ripe target. It's a little different. But, I would not count Kendrick Meek out.
Yeah, exactly.
Obviously.
I mean, you've got to have a very savvy strategist and campaign plan to get through, Ruby on one side, Chris on the other, Jeff Green before he even gets there. And we'll see if Meek has the strategy to do that.
The other thing I was interested about is, if you're Charlie Crist, who do you want to win? Now, I know the conventional wisdom has always been, if you're Charlie Crist, you want Jeff Green to win because maybe the DSCC would back you, whereas if Kendrick Meek is nominated, the DSCC has got to stay with Kendrick Meek. They can't abandon him.
I don't think Charlie Crist is that concerned about who the DSCC gets behind. I think he's going to have plenty of money locally in Florida, maybe not in D.C.
Yeah, but Charlie Crist can't win unless the Democrat basically implodes.
Exactly.
Right?
No, I don't think that's the case. I think Charlie Crist can't win if the Democrat has enough money. I don't think Jeff Green can beat Charlie Crist unless, something else from either Greer Grade or something else props up. But I don't think Charlie Crist really cares one way or the other which Dem comes out of the primary.
I don't know. He's got to care one way or the other. But it's not as easy to call as I was. I mean, I was sure, he'd love for Jeff Green to win because the Democrats are just. But Jeff Green is he's rich enough that he could cause problems for Crist even if he is the nominee.
True. He could also cause problems for Rubio. It really depends on who Jeff Green decides to go after if he wins.
Florida is such an interesting state.
I
wish we
know.
could talk more about it today, but we are all out of time for today.
Until next time, we'll see you on Hotline TV.